You're probably thinking, oh great, another audio guru. Why should I listen to them? My name is John Maciel, and 5 years ago I set out to make audio my full-time gig. I worked with people like Bo Burchell, A.L. Levy, Finn McKinty, John Brown, and bands like Era, Moose Blood, Census Fail, Hail the Sun, and a lot more. Now I work with URM Academy and Riffhard, where I help the next generation of audio mixers, producers, and guitarists. The goal of this video is to not only one, show you that the audio industry is not oversaturated, but how to get started in a very, very dense and competitive industry, but still make a name for yourself. You've probably heard it many times.
Audio is oversaturated. You can't get a job in audio. It's really hard to make it into the industry. There's no jobs left. Studios are closing down. The bedroom studio has destroyed the audio industry. No one makes it in audio anymore. Internships are dead. Studios are dead. Runners are dead. No one makes records at a studio anymore.
And you're probably wondering to yourself, is the audio industry saturated? Should I even attempt to try to become a world famous producer, engineer, mixer, or just make a living doing audio recording? I don't think the audio industry is oversaturated at all. As a matter of fact, I would even argue with that. There's a lot of opportunities still. With the audio industry, one thing is there is a lot of not so talented people trying to make it in audio. So to separate yourself from that is how you can still get in a very, very amazing career field. So the good news is the audio industry is not oversaturated. Matter of fact, there are so many opportunities every single day. People are always looking for great, talented people to work with and to give opportunities to. The downside to all this, unfortunately, there are a lot of people who are not talented and or do not have the drive or willingness to do what it takes to make audio a full-time career. It's not as easy as just opening up your favorite digital audio workstation and getting to work. It takes a lot to get there. And with that said, let's talk about making your way into an oversaturated market and making a name for yourself within the audio industry. All right, let's talk about first what kind of job opportunities you can have in the audio industry. There's, of course, recording bands, mixing records, producing records, and those are I like to call them the fun, obvious jobs, the ones that a lot of people go for when they first get into audio. But now let's talk about some jobs that may be apparent, but not so apparent, that are great ways to make money in the industry, especially right now. Podcasts. Podcast editing and mixing is probably one of the most lucrative ways to make money in the audio industry right now. Everybody, and I mean, you've probably noticed yourself, everybody is starting podcasts right now. And it's the best way to find more than one client on a recurring revenue stream so that you edit the podcast, but you can still go out to shows when they're open up again and start meeting clients and bringing them into your studio. Another one is Foley. You know, all the recorded sound effects from movies, TV shows, all that stuff. Like there's libraries of those sounds. And just because there's a whole world full of those sounds, a lot of studios and games will hire Foley teams to make sounds specific for their video games that no one else has. Scoring music, the stuff that we love from the movies that we listen to, from Danny Elfman to Hans Zimmer, just being a composer, writing music to movie trailers, to movies, to game trailers, to just commercials. There's a whole industry in doing that. And you can make a great living just making songs and composing them for like TV shows, web series, hell, even YouTube channel intros, things like that. Just composing intros for podcasts. There are so many ways you can monetize being in the audio industry outside of just produce a record, producer, engineer. There's so many ways to make money in audio. Like the way I like to think about audio now than when I first started out 12 years ago, I only saw it as how to make records. Engineer, producer, mixer, master engineer. Those are like the 4 roles, and that's all I thought of. And it wasn't until I moved to Los Angeles and started working where a lot of the people I was doing work for would refer me to other work, audio books and things of that. Once I realized there was a whole world of audio jobs, it really changed my perspective on how I was viewing things. And the way to view it was, if I can create 5 or 6 normal streams of income with people who need audiobooks monthly and podcasts monthly, all of a sudden I have this recurring revenue stream from all these projects. And that's just like, that could be just one podcast from one person. If they're a podcast producer, they might produce 5 podcasts and bring you on for like 3 of those and give the other 2 to somebody else. And that's all recurring revenue as long as those podcasts are going. And you know, they're a producer, so they're gonna bring on as many podcasts as they can manage. And then they're gonna need editors, so you're part of this editing team. And same thing with audiobooks. And then before you know it, you have all this, you know, recurring income from doing audiobooks and podcasts, where you can go out to shows, meet bands, and you're not stressed about, I need this project to work. You're going in there and you're trying to build relationships with the right type of band so that you get the right type of resume or, you know, artists on your portfolio so you can go and work with the artists that you want to work with. Same thing with living in a city like Los Angeles. Small indie filmmakers are always looking for people to mix their movies, to make original content for music behind. And in Los Angeles or anywhere there was abundance of creative filmmakers, web series makers, video games, things of that nature, reaching out and offering Foley services, mixing the audio for their, you know, their shows, the games or whatever, and just stepping into it. So the first part to all this is finding, so out of all those things I mentioned, let's say all of those sound great to you and you want to do all of them. But let's get focused. Let's say you had to do one of those things for 3 to 5 years. Which of those things could you imagine yourself doing for 3 to 5 years and focus in on that? That's what you want to have the tunnel vision for. I always encourage anyone who's getting into audio, pick 3 to 5 things out of all these ideas that you have that you could possibly do, and then ask yourself, these are the 3 to 5 things that I would like to do and what I could imagine myself doing for the next 3 to 5 years. How do I get started? And once you ask yourself that question, this video is hopefully going to help you figure out how to navigate those waters faster and more precisely so you can get to your end objective of making it a career in audio. Now, the biggest secret to making it in the audio industry, and honestly, in my opinion, into any industry, is your networking capability. And I'm sure when you hear the word networking, you're just like,
oh, well, I've always heard networking.
What is networking? I didn't know what networking was. I've heard the term several times, and I always went to networking events. You see, people like to do business with other people that they like. It's just the nature of humans. If someone is more qualified for a position, but you can see yourself working very closely with this other person for 30 to 40 hours, and you know that in time they will, get to that level of this other candidate, but this other candidate who's qualified just isn't compatible for that many hours, most people would agree that this would be the candidate they would go with. They would go with the person who is easy to be around for several hours at a time and could eventually have the potential to be where they were at. And this is the power of network. Now, networking in 2021 is so much easier than it was, at least for myself, 12 years ago. With networking nowadays, it's a lot easier to find out where people of interest hang out and have conversations and meet up. Networking is not only about asking people questions, but it's more importantly about building genuine friendships and relationships with people where you can learn from their insight on what you need to do to prepare yourself for when that opportunity comes up. Are you prepared? Without knowing how to properly network and what it actually meant to network, I would not be able to accomplish a lot of the things that I have done in the past 5 years. And networking is what helped make so much of this possible. So earlier I said pick 3 to 5 things you can do. Now let's say you're into editing podcasts sound cool because you listen to podcasts all the time and you would love to get into that world to figure out what a podcast like, and being in the room with guests and highly intellectual people, conversation that motivates you. Like, you want to be in that type of circle. Like, you love audio and you love music, but you would also love to meet people who have a huge influence on society as a whole and records. So you want to pull from both worlds. How do I find people who need podcast editing? Well, you go onto YouTube, you go onto Facebook, and you just look at all your friends lists, or you just post, hey, looking to edit some podcasts. Anyone have any referrals or anybody? And then family and friends who have businesses. Maybe you take it upon yourself to become sort of a podcast producer so that you can get editing jobs, and maybe you commission both the producing and editing side. Or you have a friend who writes short stories or novels. You go to Fiverr, Upwork, so many different freelance places, and you put yourself out there and you just constantly go for it, and you put your name out there and you start having conversations with people. They start referring you, grow your network in that way. And while you're doing that, you go to at least one show a week and you just start meeting people and having conversations, and you just go in with the intent of being a fan, enjoying their music, and wanting to add value to that conversation. Now you have your 3 to 5 things that you're focusing on. You know exactly what you want to do, and now you need to go out there and network. Focus and try to find where these people that have the job that you want to have, or the clientele that you want to have, where are they conversating, where do they hang out, where are they doing everything? And go interject yourself and build these genuine relationships in those areas, because that's the only way you're going to smartly maneuver and network to get yourself a great opportunity, position, and job within the audio industry. And then you will soon realize it's not oversaturated. So with all that said, audio is not oversaturated. Is it easy to get into the industry? No, it is not. But is it possible if you play the long game, you maneuver in your network? Yes, of course it is. And I'm here as living proof that you can still go and make a career out of audio. So hopefully this video was helpful, and I will see you guys on the next one.